Here we are, and it's the 14th year of COVID, I believe. um, I I think they're just calling it now in the year of COVID, aren't they? It's what
Well,
we
they're
say.
making a distinction between this reality and the before times.
Yeah, I get. What? Wait, there was a before time?
Oh, barely? Can you remember?
No,
vaguely?
not really. I've totally given up on that now.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh well.
No, and this is a very depressing topic, and we're not supposed to be talking about depressing topics today.
No.
Because today we're talking about joy.
Joy is Joy going to be here?
Yeah, remember her?
Yeah, she was great. Didn't take us long to get to that. We don't want to waste time.
Not half a second.
We'll go right to the stupid Joy joke, which everyone expects us to do.
No, we're gonna talk about joy around the world today.
Joy around the world, and that's something that again has been kind of lacking for a while, for a lot of reasons, but certainly COVID has been a chief one. Regardless, here we are. We're all here in the studio.
We are. Thank goodness for that.
Yes, absolutely. So you're here, Dean Foster.
I am indeed, and you're here, Tom Peterson.
I am also, and with us is also Torrin.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, look who's here.
Yeah, how about that? He's right here in the studio with us.
I am here.
I'm a little
right.
frightened by that, actually.
Don't be.
Why would you be frightened?
I'm kind and joyous.
We don't have him wearing a mask, but he has been shrink wrapped. We
Good.
have him completely covered.
And it's perfectly safe.
I can
Absolutely.
breathe just fine.
Right. Well, for a short period of time, yes.
Temporarily.
Yeah. But it works great for a short period of time. My. Well, it's good to be back. And joy is a great subject for us to be talking about. I think it's a good time of the year that we're recording this for joy. But then again, right now, I take joy any time of the year.
Right. Well, but joy and funny, and what's funny in one place may not be funny in another.
Absolutely.
And like, hey, what's funny, right? And
So people listening to this in other parts of the world might be going, I don't understand what they're talking about or why anyone thinks this is humorous.
and why we particularly laugh about something while somebody else might not.
Absolutely.
And is that cultural or is it just bad? Is it just because it's bad?
Yes.
That's all.
Yes, I think is the answer to that.
I mean, is there a cultural piece to this?
Well, if there isn't, what the heck are we doing here?
Now, we're laughing right now, right?
Yeah.
But is it because we said something funny, or is it because we said something that we tried to make funny, but it really wasn't funny, so we laughed about
Well,
it?
that brings up a good point, though. Sometimes not being funny when attempting to be funny is pretty funny.
But this is really a deep issue.
Isn't it?
Yes, because
Well, that's all we have time for.
what-
That's
what you've just raised is this eternal question of, is there a universality, in this case to humor,
yeah.
as opposed to, is humor always and only culturally determined? And that's an essential question when you talk about culture around anything.
Around any aspect, not just humor.
Is there a universal way of doing something better than another way? And if so, is it culturally tied in some way?
But it's going to be culturally tied, right? I mean, you always keep
Well,
telling me
I'm-
there's
I'm
a
gonna-
cultural aspect to
I'm
this.
going to think so. Yes. Now we have the question: is it funny because it's funny, or is it funny because in my culture it's
Oh,
funny?
Well, then it's funny though, because now we get to the definition of funny. Grammar time, grammar time. Everybody loves grammar time. We don't have to pay any royalties on that,
yeah, we do.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
To ourselves?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll buy you something later, all right?
Right.
When, well, it's not really grammar, I guess, but it's more definition. And now a definition. Well, that's a terrible song. We won't be using that one. Never mind.
See, that was funny because you were trying to be funny. And
it wasn't funny
no,
at all.
No.
Or good either.
Or good.
See, there's
just bad.
always a piece to culture where there is an objectivity, there is a universality.
Absolutely.
And that was just plain bad no matter where you go.
Thank you very
No
much.
matter where.
No, they actually love me in Tibet. They absolutely thought that was hysterical.
They do, actually.
They do.
They do.
They do.
Now, because there's a culture of universal love. And
True.
so,
And joy.
and joy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when she gets back from Tibet, let me know, okay? Again,
I don't
not funny. and an attempt
No.
to be funny.
Right.
I just thought I'd demonstrate for everyone.
Thank you.
Sure.
You're very good at that.
Thank you very much. Look, there are people who have made careers out of not being funny and being funny.
And you're
about
doing
it.
a good job of it.
Thank you
right
very
now.
much. Please. I could send money.
So this aspect of is it funny because
know.
it's culturally funny, or is it not funny because in my culture that's not funny, but in your culture it might be?
Yes.
Because
Oops. Your culture's showing. So are we talking about jokes around the world in different cultures, or are
now
we talking about
humor?
humor?
Oh, that's an interesting point. Here's the cultural thing.
Okay. Here it is. Write this down, Torin.
A joke.
I'm sorry.
should-
That's all the time we have.
A joke is a form of humor. It's not the only form of humor.
Ah.
And as a basic rule, you don't want to tell jokes cross-culturally.
So if you're having a cross-cultural experience of some kind, whether people are coming in to visit you or you're going to see them in a different culture, you should be careful of using humor.
Jokes. No, humor's great.
Is it though, or can it be misinterpreted?
Well, it can be misinterpreted, so you have to know.
So your
that
whole thesis just went out the window.
No, I was talking about jokes,
Okay.
not humor. That's the point.
This
There's
is
a
all a joke,
difference.
if you ask me.
Humor's great. Everybody loves humor. Everybody loves a good laugh. And I think actually that if you're abroad, there's a whole lot more need for it in terms of building personal relationships than there would be even locally.
So the question then begs to be asked. It just phoned in a minute ago, and it was begging to be asked. If I'm in another country, then and how do I determine what is humor that is A, acceptable, and B, understandable, and maybe C, just will be thought to be funny?
Well, you know, there's information about this. I mean, I've written several articles about this, and you can call.
Now we get the
There
pitch.
we go.
Now we get the pitch.
Here's the thing. Rule. Okay, we set out a rule, basic rule. Avoid jokes because they're not going to be understood. They're going to fall flat. It's not going to be funny. And you may, in fact, insult somebody without meaning to.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah.
But what kind of humor works in that culture? Find that out ahead of time. Now, some cultures, the humor is based on slapstick and physicality.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't translate everywhere, by the way.
Right, sure.
Some cultures, humor is based on being clever and ironic with the words.
Mhm.
So you may choose to use your language in such a way where you use a word to mean the actual opposite of what the word means. British culture, British humor is based on irony, and where we use words precisely to imply the opposite meaning of what the word actually means. So that translates very well in Britain, doesn't translate in a place like Germany,
Mm-hmm.
because German humor is not based on irony or satire or sarcasm. Well,
Mhm.
satire, yes, to some degree, but certainly not irony. So, you know, it's going to go right over the Germans' head because they're going to literally interpret the words
Right.
for their literal meaning.
Right.
So you're not going to, if you try to use British humor in a German context, it doesn't work, and vice versa, it doesn't work.
Sure.
Right. So understanding the cultural roots of humor wherever you are is important in order for you to be funny. I think a general rule, if you want to be humorous, is you use self-deprecating humor.
Mm.
In other words, say something that would not necessarily be a burden on the listener, but it might be funny because it burdens you. It makes you the target of the joke.
Right.
And that's a much safer way to go. But again, jokes are just not the way to go. Humor, culturally appropriate humor, I think, is the way to go.
Okay. So then in that scenario we had earlier where we have someone coming in, let's say someone's coming into the United States and they're from another country and they're mostly, they speak enough English to be able to have a conversation with you, but they're not clearly fluent in it, but enough. And so in that case right there, you want to be careful not to fall into what would be your regular style of humor and jokes, if let's assume you have that, and you're using that your normal thing, even though you're in your normal surroundings, where I would think it'd be very difficult at times to remember not to behave in that fashion, or to realize if you do behave in that fashion, that is maybe why that person is looking at you oddly or strangely or something like that.
It could be creating a situation where it could be much worse than that.
Okay.
Just feeling insulted by what you said, as opposed to realizing that what you were trying to do was say something funny.
Okay. So, boy, we've killed the joy out of this humor conversation, haven't we? Just beat it up.
It's a very good self-deprecating comment.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought I'd give an example.
You know what? One time I was in Hong Kong. I'll give you an example of self-deprecation and how it worked. One time I was in Hong Kong and I was about to make an address to a large group of people. And, in the U.S., there's a golden rule that if you get up in front of a group of people, one of the ways you want to get started, warm it up, is to say something funny. Say something humorous. Now, if you're in the U.S. and you're an American talking to an American audience, sure, fine, use a joke. You will have the sensitivity to know whether it's appropriate or not. But I'm in Hong Kong, and if I want to warm up by saying something humorous, okay, but say a joke, no, not going to work. Because the priority value in a culture like Hong Kong, when you start the address, is to apologize, actually. Staying humble and making yourself self-deprecating yourself is far more effective as a way to get started, because what you're doing is you're requiring the audience to understand that you are the expert. It is the reason why you are there, to be able to share things that are going to be of use to them. So I had this dilemma. Do I say something funny or do I say something humble? And I'm thinking backstage, I'm going, okay, I got to think of something. So I come out there and I go, well, I understand that many of you, of course, are local Hong Kong Chinese. Many of you, there were a lot of Westerners in the audience. So I didn't know, should I start with a joke for the Westerners or should I start with saying something humble for my Chinese colleagues? So what I did is I said, so I will I forgot the punchline.
Is that what you said? Because that would have been brilliant.
No,
that would have been self-deprecating. It was brilliant.
So what I said was, I'm going to apologize that I don't have any jokes to tell. So I was self-deprecating. I avoided using a joke that wouldn't translate in Hong Kong culture.
Right.
And I appealed to what would translate in Hong Kong culture.
And did that get big laughs for you?
Didn't get big laughs, but it got some laughs.
Okay.
And it warmed up and it achieved the goal that I had in mind.
Okay. Well, good for you. That's absolutely good. Now, what I'd like to do is to get some of my relatives to not tell jokes. Can I figure out a way to do that in our culture? Because it just, as you were saying that about the different cultures and the different things that they might find funny or not funny, or the way they tell a joke, and whether is it self-deprecating, is it not, those kinds of things. I was thinking that just in the human species, there are people in every culture, I'm sure, certainly in the culture in the United States, there are people who think they are certainly funny, who aren't funny. At least not either that or they're in the wrong culture.
So either universally not funny or even not funny in an American context, even though they're Americans. They're just plain not funny for whatever reason.
Not funny. These people who are telling the story and they think it's an interesting story.
Cream pies.
Oh my gosh.
Cream pies. That's what deals it. Just to pick up a cream pie and throw it in their face.
Now we get to humor, physical humor.
But that'll stop them.
They will. They will. I usually carry a supply of cream pies around with me.
Yeah, so the old cream pie, the old slapstick stuff, the old, fall on your face, slide on a banana peel. Why is that humorous? Is that universally translatable?
I think, I don't know.
I would say it's not.
Well, I think probably not in some places, but I'll bet you it's translatable in many places.
I'll tell you what happened to me. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. It's the capital of Malaysia.
Yeah.
I'm on a day off. I did some work there. I'm in a big shopping mall. And I'm about to go down this big escalator. And I'm not particularly good with escalators and elevators anyway, but okay, We all do the go on and so this escalator is going down. I get to the bottom of it and I trip and I fall. And maybe because I was overly conscious of not doing that is exactly why it happened. But I did. Immediately, I found myself surrounded by what seemed to be multitudes of local shoppers, all of them reaching out to help me to get me up, but laughing loudly.
Okay.
And I'm feeling like, whoa, wait a minute. I just fell. And thank you for helping me up. But what was so funny about that? I kind of felt embarrassed and I felt like I was being made a joke of. Now, this is all complete misinterpretation. This is working without the cultural filter, because what was going on, in fact, the intent was just the opposite. Their laughter was a way of trying to make a situation that was unusual and probably very uncomfortable for me into not important.
Are you speaking of uncomfortable in a sense of being physically uncomfortable or embarrassing?
Embarrassing.
Gotcha.
Embarrassing.
Okay.
Embarrassing. So it was a way of taking the heat down from what was their cultural assumption that I was embarrassed by what was happening.
Right.
And making it all just light and funny. And this whole aspect of taking any kind of physicality and physical humor and making it into something that is light and funny for whatever reason, to either avoid embarrassment of the individual that's in a particular circumstance, or because it is funny to actually make that kind of situation and watch someone who is innocent. And it doesn't matter if we laugh at them, that we can laugh at them anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the Jerry Lewis phenomenon in France,
right?
For example,
or anywhere, for that
anywhere,
matter.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's risky to laugh at people when they're doing something that is unusual, or in an unusual circumstance where physically they're being challenged,
right?
We can laugh at them because we don't care about the individual. This is a comic. This is a mime.
Right.
So it's perfectly safe to laugh at them and laugh at the physicality that's going on. But it wasn't when I was in Malaysia. The usefulness of laughter was for a completely different purpose. It was to make me feel comfortable, not uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, clearly a different use. Although I wonder, is there a basis for that in the idea of that we'll laugh in real life, not watching it on a screen or something. In real life, we will have a tendency to want to laugh when someone slips on the sidewalk and falls down, and yet that person is probably in pain to some degree. At least.
I think if you're signaled in the movie, let's say, a slapstick scene in a movie.
But I'm not saying there. I'm saying like just on the sidewalk. People will laugh at that. People will laugh at people just falling down on the sidewalk.
No, I think it's culturally determined. I think in some places maybe, but in some places...
But maybe there's an aspect to it that goes to what you just explained about them trying to actually make you feel better about it. That may be something that's inside of us, but we've lost it culturally.
You see, I think in Malaysia, I don't think any of the people who were helping me up were finding it funny, but they were laughing. There was a disconnect between why they were laughing. In the West, we might think of laughter as a response to being funny, but in Malaysia and in much of East Asia, laughter can be an indication of a lot of other things. In this case, it was saving my face.
Sure, and I can see, but even in Western cultures, I can see laughter it can be a sign of embarrassment, of a person's embarrassment. Yeah. Or uneasy. I mean, I've worked in shows and plays in front of live audiences where you've had very difficult moments in the show itself, in the play, and you will get a few audience members who will start to giggle, And when you're on stage as an actor and you hear that, it can be unsettling because
they're
you're
not
this-
laughing because something's funny.
That is not the point of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can think, is something wrong? But at a certain point of the development of being an actor, you learn, a stage actor, you learn that comes with the territory. There's going to
Right.
be people who are going to react because they're uncomfortable or embarrassed or both, or maybe more, and their reaction to it is laughter. And I'm just wondering, is it possible that there's even some sort of genetic response in humans as a whole that would invoke laughter in a situation along those lines, because it is being used? We're not recognizing it as that anymore here, but in a place like Malaysia, what happened to you, they are recognizing that as part of their culture. So they're doing it with that intent. Whereas here, if we do it, someone else might yell at you, don't laugh. This person could be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not seeing it in that format
Right.
anymore.
And in
It's almost
Malaysia,
like an antiquated use of a word. That you don't use it in that term anymore. You use it in this term. We're kind of doing that with the laughter, perhaps.
Mhm. I remember one time I was in Beijing.
Yeah.
A similar situation, but I think again for a different kind of reason. I was in a swimming pool in the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm swimming. It was big.
Do you have clothes on at this point?
I have a bathing suit.
A bathing suit. All right.
I had to remember.
Okay.
Yeah, of course I had a bathing suit
Okay,
on.
just asking
So
questions.
would it have been really funny if I didn't? Or
Yeah, probably.
or would it have been more? It would have been funny, but also, and who would have been embarrassed? And would they have been laughing out of embarrassment?
Yes.
Or would they have just?
No, they would have been laughing out of embarrassment.
I'm not so sure. Oh, really?
Well, what did you like them to be laughing? There isn't a good interpretation left.
Yes, I'm in a bathing suit. Let me tell you what happened. What really happened?
Okay, yes.
Okay. What
You're
really
in this
happened?
bathing suit in Beijing.
And I am in a swimming pool.
You're bathing in your bathing suit in Beijing.
Right.
Here we go. It's alliteration hell.
Yeah, and it's full of other swimmers, and this guy is swimming, and he's coming from the other side, and I don't see him because he's underwater.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's really swimming fast, and he's making it to the other end, and I'm at the other end, and suddenly he's fast, and I'm in his way, and bang,
Right into
swims
you.
right into me.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm going, woof,
Anyway, what'd you do?
woof.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And he pops up right in front of me because he slammed into my chest, pops up right in front of me. And he looks at me and I'm looking at him and he starts laughing.
Yeah.
Like really intentionally laughing.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going,
But a real one. He's not faking this. He's
No, this
he's
is-
really laughing.
yeah.
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 Okay.
And what's happening here is, I'm having this intuitive response, which is, hey, you just slammed into me,
Right.
and now you're laughing about it,
Right.
right? Now again, through the Chinese cultural lens, what's going on here is that he's saving face because of his mistake
Ah.
and signaling me that he's sorry about what happened in a way where he can save face.
Yeah.
And I get that. But there's this other piece of me which is going, okay, but you just slammed into me.
Right.
Right. And after I joined in with the laughter, then he touched me on the shoulder, put his hand on my shoulder, and asked me if I was okay.
Hmm. Huh.
And I think in this very small little scenario, there was so much information about culture and how we can misunderstand the intent of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also an example of using laughter as a way of not necessarily expressing something that was funny. There was nothing funny about this situation for either of us.
Right. Right.
But laughter was a way through it for him.
Well, I think it's better than road rage, which tends to be kind of common, or other things like that right now. Yeah, interesting. Okay. The well, I don't. Did we have a laugh track, Torrin, through this entire thing? That's great. Just great.
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's it. That's
Okay.
perfect. Perfect.
There you go.
Amazing. He's amazing.
But the whole issue.
By the way, thanks for contributing to this episode.
the whole.
You're welcome.
Now that-
a little sarcasm.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A little bit of sarcasm. Is that candy or something?
It is.
It used to be.
Actually, it was a horse I bet on in the 5th race. Yeah, a little bit of sarcasm.
Oh, that's a good horse.
Yeah,
That's a
it
good
was-
horse name.
yeah.
I like that.
I lost all my money.
That's too bad.
So,
So the reason we don't tell jokes is because the language isn't going to translate. The humor is not going to come through because of the language differences.
and just trying to rotely translate a joke from English, let's say, to French is, well, that's not going to work anyway, but you get the idea, to Spanish, and saying it that way will not necessarily work because languages don't work that way.
Here's an example. Again, it doesn't make. It's coming to mind. I was in Japan. Now, here's a culture where English is not well understood. Certainly, there's a generational difference. Younger Japanese typically tend to understand English because they're taught it in school, but older Japanese, anybody over 45, English is not well known. So somebody is an English speaker is making a presentation in Tokyo, and it's being translated so that everybody in the audience can understand what's going on. And the English speaker is trying to tell a joke. Bad mistake. Shouldn't have been done.
Right.
Right.
Which you should know that if you've been listening to this podcast.
And so what the translator does wisely, and because this solves so many Japanese cultural issues, is as the English speaker is telling the joke, the Japanese translator says, now the speaker is telling a joke. The audience is starting to get the message. Then the audience, and then he says, now he's getting to the punchline. Now everybody laugh.
Okay. and
And the entire audience laughed,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. Right. So
Perfect.
the presenter's face was saved.
Yeah.
He left the stage thinking he was a hit.
Yeah.
Right. And the audience's face was saved because they did the right thing to save his face.
Sure.
And they didn't understand the punchline. They didn't even get what was funny.
Right.
But they had the appropriate response for the situation.
They were
which
just
is,
being told that stuff,
which
right?
is precisely the way you have to behave in Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
Know the appropriate response for any given situation and respond that way.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what they did.
Sure.
And it was
That's funny.
and it was
See, that's funny.
and it was a perfect example.
So you're saying, just let me analyze this joke now and totally destroy it. You were saying that he was actually saying, the interpreter was actually saying, he is telling a joke now.
That's right. He never even
He is
translated the
saying
punchline.
There's no punchline. There is no
there's
joke.
none.
There was nothing for them to misinterpret. It was just, I'm telling you what's going on so you can respond correctly.
Precisely.
And now laugh.
Exactly.
Ha, 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 ha. And yeah.
The level of sensitivity to the complexity of human relationships and saving face and making sure that people say and do the right thing in relation to each other in any given circumstance is so finely tuned in Japan that there are many, many lessons, I think, U.S. Americans certainly and Westerners in general can learn if they tune into this.
Sure.
Very hard, by the way, I think, for Westerners to tune into.
Yeah, that sounds like it kind of goes against a lot of the things that we hold near and dear to us or think we hold near and dear to us. You know what that sounds like? That, to me, sounds like a different podcast that I think we could get into a little bit and talk about more of those things kind of culturally around the world. Maybe we should do that in the podcast after this podcast?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, we had to get Torrance permission to do that. So
He's
anyway,
on it. He's so on it.
He is.
He was right there.
He is. Right after we woke him up, he
Right
was. He was
Wait, yeah.
yeah, right. Right. In his mind, someone is saying they are now talking in a podcast. They are still talking in a podcast. They are coming to the end of the podcast.
Before
Pretend
we
you
come
know
to
what's
the-
going on.
Just tell them they can do whatever they're asking. Yes.
Well, that being said, thank you, Dean Foster, for your incredible knowledge on this subject. For a man who's really not very funny, I think you've done a heck of a job with this one.
I try my best.
Oh, wait, it's self-deprecating.
Self-deprecating.
Isn't it? Self-deprecating.
Right.
Self. Yeah.
I get that wrong often. Anyway, thank you for your work here. And thanks, Torin, for being here with us today.
What? Yes, do whatever. Yep. Sure.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yep.
Brian.
And thank you, Tom,
Well, you're
for
welcome.
raising these critically important issues for us and the listener.
You're very, very welcome. It's my pleasure. And it's always important because you do know that, oops, your culture's showing. Smell ya. Okay, listen, the way to get hold of us is oopscultureshow@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is oopscultureshow. Whether this is the first episode or the third episode or whatever episode that you've listened to, you should really subscribe. That's the best way to go, really, honestly. I know what I'm talking about. All right, so just subscribe through iTunes or through wherever you get your podcasts from. Subscribe. Thank you.